Hey, what's yappening out there? Let's dissect the delusional death cult media madness and see if we can make a reality sandwich as we hash out the current beefs on the world stage. On the dock of the bay, on the docket today, in sad, upsetting, and/or aggravating news, an alleged out-of-control, violent, peaceful, lesbian, terrorist, polite, friendly mother of three criminal offender identified as Renee Good was allegedly aggressively running over and/or meekly running away from an alleged professional, heroic civil servant and/or psychotic murderer ICE agent identified as John Ross, who was allegedly in fear for his life and/or eager to take a life, and shot through the front window only while being run over or shot through the side window while trying to take a selfie. We'll also be discussing current U.S. interest in the well-being of the Venezuelan people and the health of their political system, as well as a sudden deep concern for Iranian protesters of all things, as well as something about Greenland. All three countries certainly in a very excited state by the news that the USA, the land of liberty, is taking a keen interest in their current affairs and their territory. But most importantly, we'll be gleaning insights and understandings from the chaos and confusion and using them to create solutions. No better time than now, no better place than here. What's yappening now? Start off by talking about this Renee Good situation. Every article, every video, everything I see about this case, there's a clear victim and a clear criminal. It's just nobody agrees on who the criminal is and who the victim is. And yet there's only one thing that happened. There's not multiple things that happened. One thing happened, and yet there's completely different takeaways depending on what your ideology is, depending on what you think, what you believe about the country, the direction it should go, and things like that. So one group of people have the idea that ICE cannot be interfered with. They can't be. They are civil servants. They are armed. They are trying to protect the country. They're trying to make the country a better place. They're following the orders of their superiors, and they're just trying to do a specific job, and a portion of this country believes that that is sacrosanct, that you can't just interfere with that. You can't just run up as a pedestrian and demand that they treat you with some sort of respect if you're interfering with their business. That their business is to protect the greater U.S. Citizenry, the U.S. territory, from what Donald Trump is calling, basically this invasion of immigrants. They have to get out. And then on the other side, if you're a blue state and you get a bunch of ICE people coming to your state to do something that you don't even want them to do, that feels like an invasion to you. So we're just talking about different layers of borders. So we have the overall U.S. borders, which ICE is under the auspice of protecting. And for a lot of people, that's absolutely necessary. That's something they need to be doing, and something that people are mad they haven't been doing more of. And even some people who believe that this has to be done do agree that it's getting done too aggressively and that it could be done in a better way. But they still generally tend to believe that you do not have the right to interfere. They're doing a legal operation to extract individuals who this country's current administration do not want here. These are individuals who are being deported by the administration. And people who support the administration support what they're doing by deporting these individuals. So that is indeed a legal process that's happening. Now, is that legal process happening legally? There's a lot of debate, and those cases have not been had yet. So we'll have to wait to see what the courts say about each specific case and whether it's being handled legally or illegally, and whether the overall ICE operations are being handled legally or illegally. As far as people who do not support the current administration and people who do not support deportations, or at least this type of deportation, those people have a completely different observation about what happened with Renee Good. The people who side with the current administration, those people all tend to have a favorable view of what ICE is doing and tend to be willing to excuse a lot of ICE behavior or aggression if they can instead put that responsibility on these protesters from interfering with this, legal operation. But on the other side, the people who aren't a fan of this administration, aren't a fan of what they're doing, those people clearly see it differently and see that it looked a whole lot to them like Renee Good was, on the street where she lives, talking a little bit of, what they would call sense, talking some sense into the ICE agents about what they're doing, letting the ICE agents know her beliefs and that she believes that what they're doing is wrong, which a lot of people around the country believe that what ICE is doing wrong. So Renee Good was trying to let the ICE agents who were in the middle of an operation to detain a deportee, or allegedly so, Renee was trying to dissuade them from doing so, trying to talk to them and say that what they're doing is wrong. She was expressing her freedom of speech, which I think most people are okay with that part of. I don't think anybody said that she was doing anything illegal by yelling at ICE when they're trying to detain somebody. I think that's generally considered legal, right? So she's there doing something that is arguably legal as far as we can see from the videos. I haven't seen any longer videos that show her doing anything illegal. And then ICE approach the vehicle. Maybe it is in the way. Maybe it's legally hindering their operation, and they're going to ask her to move it or something like that. ICE go up to the window. At that point, Renee seems to be scared that her vehicle is getting surrounded, and she seems to want to drive off. She didn't seem to have any intention of running over an officer. It seemed like she was turning the wheel to avoid hitting an officer. There was an officer near the front of the vehicle, and that officer is claimed to have been injured by the vehicle moving forward, and that officer shot Renee Good 3 times, I believe, and she is no longer with us. She passed, and of course that is a horrible tragedy. It should be a tragedy on all sides, but sadly it's turned into a talking point for both sides. Oh, this side is bad because of this, the quote-unquote left is bad because they're interfering with legal operations. The quote-unquote right is bad because, they're murdering people, allegedly, illegally detaining U.S. citizens, illegally going, the way they're going about arresting quote-unquote illegal immigrants, the way they're going about these deportations is considered by many on the left as way too far, doing way too much damage, too much escalation instead of de-escalation, too much intimidation. Instead of it feeling like people can trust ICE or that ICE is a good part of the community, it often feels in these blue cities like it's very antagonistic. And it also feels like ICE isn't really being sent to other areas where immigrants live, but where Trump doesn't want to create tension with the populations there. There doesn't seem to be a lot of ICE raids into plenty of red or right-leaning areas that we all know have plenty of immigrants who live there. So there's plenty of antagonism to go around on both sides, people provoking each other, but what's really behind the two different narratives? What's behind the division? Why are there two sides that are so certain about what they saw and what happened, but yet don't see what the other person saw and doesn't agree with the other person about what happened? Political philosopher John Rawls puts forward an idea that might help us here called the veil of ignorance. The veil of ignorance is a concept that allows you to try to look at a situation without holding your own position on that situation, right? We each have our own position on any given situation. The veil of ignorance is meant to remove you from that position, to turn you into somebody who has no previous bias on any given situation. So that if we're looking at the Renee Good case, and we're using the veil of ignorance, we don't want to be either of the two people. If we're using the veil of ignorance, we don't want to be the person who believes John Ross is the criminal and Renee Good is the victim, but we also don't want to be the person who believes that Renee Good is the criminal and she had to be dealt with as a criminal. We don't want to be on either sides of that to start with. If we're using the veil of ignorance, we want to come into the situation with no bias and try to understand and see where we land after approaching the situation with no bias. We want to see where we land after approaching the situation as if we didn't know which side we were already on. So let's go ahead and do that. We can see that, as I already started to outline, there's a legal case for why what happened, right? And then the other side has a moral case for why what happened shouldn't have happened. There's also a potential legal argument, but it's the argument against the current administration, who gets to de facto dictate to you, certainly in the modern atmosphere, in the modern climate, the current administration is able to pretty much dictate to you what legality is, and then we have to wait for courts to either overrule that or concur with that. So I think it's not hard in this case to put on that veil of ignorance and see the position of both sides. I think it can't be that hard for somebody who agrees with the administration and agrees with what ICE is doing. It's not that hard to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, put on the veil of ignorance, and see that maybe a mother of three being shot that quickly over something like that isn't the optimal outcome, right? That's not something you want to have happen. Even if you believe it's ultimately her fault for not stopping the car, not putting it in park, whatever you think she should have done, certainly if you use a veil of ignorance, you can look at that situation. If you don't understand who ICE is, if you don't understand anything about this woman's politics, if all you see is one individual walking in front of a car and a woman trying to go around him to remove herself from the situation, and then he shoots her, I think we can all see why there's a moral issue in that situation. We can all see why somebody might have a problem with that. Now, we can also see, if we're on that side, we can put on a veil of ignorance and see that regardless of the moral concern one could have for the potential illegal, alleged potential murder of a U.S. citizen, a mother of three, on her own block, just mildly, what seems to be mildly protesting, it seems a lot to lose that mother of three in that situation where she was what seemed like non-aggressively protesting a situation she doesn't like on her own block, on her own street, and then trying to leave that situation when it seemed like she was being surrounded by people that she doesn't believe have her best interest in mind. She wanted to leave that situation once those people surrounded her vehicle. I think it's pretty easy for somebody, even who agrees with everything the current administration is doing and agrees with the legality of what ICE did, including the shooting of Renee Good, even if they believe it was justified, certainly if they put on the veil of ignorance, it's not hard for them to see how sad that is, and vice versa. If somebody who does already see how sad it is puts on the veil of ignorance, it's not hard to see that somebody might want to side with justice as they see it. Somebody might want to side with deportation as they see it. Somebody might want to decide that it's in their country's best interest, it's in their political beliefs, and it's legally correct to stop anybody from interfering with ICE. You can see how that's a point of view that people could have, right? You have to be able to embody that in yourself. You have to be able to imagine what it's like to be that person. And you have to understand that, of course, they're worried about human life too. Even if they try to play the hard role of like, oh, I don't care about Renee Good, she was in the way and she got what she deserved, even if that was their point of view that they're trying to confront you with, that's not their entire being, right? There's something that deeper than everybody has people they love in general. By and large, we all have people we love and care about, and would be sad to see them be murdered. So we can all understand how somebody would be sad about Renee's death and would see it as a unjustified murder. You can see that. If you can't see that, if you're a fan of what's going on and ICE doing the things they're doing, but you cannot see that it can also be interpreted as a huge loss if you can't see that she turned her wheel to leave without hitting somebody, if you can't see what's there in front of you, then you're the problem. And same on the other side. If somebody who tends to side against what Donald Trump is doing and against ICE, and if they side with Renee Good, but they can't see that somebody wants order in their country and wants border protections and wants things like that, if you can't understand somebody's desire for control over who's within their borders, and if you can't understand somebody disagreeing with how other people behave, then yeah, then you're going to be the problem. You have to be able to understand the other side in any situation, otherwise you are going to be the problem. And right now you see a lot of people being the problem. A lot of us are getting in our own way. A lot of us are stopping anything positive from happening by being completely unwilling to have a conversation, by being completely unwilling to see the other side, and 100% the whole other sideism hate is real, and it should be. We should hate that every single situation that occurs, there's another side to it. That should be frustrating for us, and we have to understand why that's happening. We have a lot of people, we have different sides who are forced under one umbrella. We have a lot of people who have valid beliefs, valid political. Being left-wing is a valid political stance. Being conservative, being right-wing is a valid political stance, right? We have way too many of those people who have extreme views on either side who are shoved into one system. That's the problem, right? We are misidentifying the problem as that other people even exist. No. The existence of people who want a tight border is not a problem. It's not a problem to have people who want tight controls over who is and who isn't within their society. That's not a bad thing. It's not bad to be that. It's also not bad to want to live with immigrants. It's not bad to want a nation full of immigrants. There's nothing inherently wrong about either position. They're positions that align with how an individual wants to live their own life. The problem is we're all under one umbrella, and if one thing happens to one person, if one thing happens to somebody on the left, it's also happening to somebody on the right. We need to be able to disassociate from each other. I get that people want to live in some fairy tale, some utopian fairy tale where someday we're all going to see eye to eye and get along and agree on laws and agree on how to treat people, but that's nonsense. That's ignorant. That's never going to happen and shouldn't happen. We all shouldn't have the same views. We all shouldn't be the same people. We all shouldn't have the same ideals, the same values, the same morality. It's good that we have differences. It's good that actual diversity exists. And it can indeed be a problem to force too much diversity down any one person's throat. I tend to like diversity. I like living around a lot of different people who believe a lot of different things than me. I like having arguments and discussions and debates with them about how things are and how things should be. But I like to understand their points of view. I like to understand how other people think and what they believe. So it's not a problem for me to run into somebody who doesn't agree with me. I like understanding their position, and so I can live around people with a lot of different beliefs and values. Other people aren't like that, and they don't have to be. They shouldn't be. It's good that other people are different. It's totally fine that some people want to live around people that look like them. That's fine. It's fine if somebody wants to live around people who believe what they believe. That is fine. That is normal. It's normal to want to hang out with people who do things like you, who look like you, who talk like you, who act like you. That is a very common, very normal type of human behavior. Can it cause problems? Absolutely. If that same person with the same normal human behavior is shoved into a society that's very diverse and getting increasingly diverse, that can be an issue for that person. You have to be able to understand that. Just because it's not an issue for me doesn't mean it's not an issue for somebody else. And just because I can get over it doesn't mean they can or that they have to. This is where that true freedom has to start coming in for humanity at some point. We have to be able to start making our own choices about who we want to associate with, who we don't want to associate with, who we want to take orders from, who we don't want to take orders from, who are our leaders and who aren't. I don't want Donald Trump as my leader. I'm fine with other people having him as their leader. That's not a problem for me. I'm perfectly willing to say it's totally valid for anyone who wants to be on Donald Trump team to be MAGA, be anti-immigrant, be whatever you want. I just don't want to be forced into the same country as that. I totally support it though. I support people having strong border controls. I support people living their dreams. That's what I want for them. I want people on the right to have that society. I just don't want it to be my society. We should be able to get along. I get along with everybody. I have no problem. You can put me in a room with anybody with any belief. I love all humans. I want there to be 10 billion humans. I want there to be 20 billion humans. I want the number to keep going up. I love it. I want more of it, right? But you can put me in a room with an anti-natalist who thinks there should be only, 0 people on Earth, or, you can put me in a room with one of those people that thinks there should be 100,000 people on the Earth and they want to depopulate. You can put me in a room with people I totally disagree with, people who I think have ideas that are very harmful. And that doesn't mean I can't understand their point of view. Just because I believe that the end result of a certain ideology is going to be bad, I can't enforce that on anybody. I can't push that belief on others. I can have a debate with them. I can have a conversation with them. I can confront others about what I think is wrong with their beliefs. But I've got to be able to draw a line somewhere and say, hey, if they don't agree with me, that's fine. If they want to live a different way, that's fine. If I want to live a different way than them, then I have to agree that it's okay for them to live a different way than me, right? I can't try to tell the whole world to live like I live and believe what I believe, right? Or am I wrong? Am I crazy here? Can we just make everybody into one type of person? Would that help anything? Would that be good for anybody? No. All right, so let's not do that. We've got to help each other identify things, like in this Renee Good situation. We've got to help each other identify these issues. And you can't do that by screaming at them your opinion. My opinion is that there's no way she should have been murdered. I think it was murder, and I think it's horrible. But I can't just beat somebody over the head with that and expect that to resonate with them. No. If they're bigger concerned than the death of some, every death is important, but if they have a larger goal, a bigger concern, that they think, if they think all these immigrants being in this country is horrible and it's causing murders, it's causing the loss of revenue, it's causing their future children to live in poverty, it's causing whatever, if they have these big worries and these big ideas of how horrible it is to have immigration, me trying to beat them over the head with, no, immigrants are cool, it's all good, that's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. These people have a valid point, and they have every right to live in a society where they can properly control their borders, that they have leaders who recognize their fears and are willing to stand up for those fears and protect their citizens from things that their citizens are worried about. That's what we all want. Just because we all don't want a lack of immigrants doesn't mean we all don't want a responsive government who is worried about what we're worried about, who is wanting to help us with the things we want help with. That's what a government is for. And so I get it that we're going to have disagreements, but the solution isn't to beat each other over the head with our own opinion. The solution is to figure out where we need to draw lines, right? Where we need to divide something so that it works better. If you have a bunch of workers, if you have 50 workers and you're trying to build a house, all 50 of them might not be able to work effectively together on the same house at the same time, right? You might need to put 10 guys working on the front of this house, 10 guys working on the back of the house, and the rest of your 30 guys working on a different project, because it's going to create conflict, it's going to create problems, it's going to create destruction. Even if you have just too many people trying to construct something, it creates destruction. You end up stepping on each other's toes, you end up knocking down what just got put up, you end up not liking what that person does, the whole let me do. You've got to have a certain amount of leadership and a certain amount of workhorse power. You got to have a certain amount of everything that you need, but not too much of anything that you don't need, right? 50 people working on one area of one construction project is going to be too many. It needs to be a bigger project for that many people. They need space to work and they need autonomy. They all need to be informed about what's going on. You can't do it with a big chaotic mess of people with a bunch of different opinions and a bunch of different goals all doing the same thing, right? We got to figure out where we want to draw these boundaries. right? Minnesota is drawing a boundary and saying, hey, our state boundary wants ICE outside of it. But the problem is we have a bigger boundary that encircles Minnesota, right? We have a boundary called the United States of America, and currently the administration is right-wing and trying to get rid of immigrants that they believe are in the country illegally, right? So Minnesota wants to protect its borders from ICE, and ICE wants to protect our borders from immigration. Just because these two ideas are opposing ideas doesn't mean either one is wrong. Both ideologies are solid. Both ideologies are about border control, border protection, protecting who's within your state, who's within your country. These are not bad things to do on either side. Both people have valid points. Both people have certain concerns about what's within their borders, right? That's normal. That's healthy. The problem is that we have conflicting points of views because we're so out of tune with each other. There shouldn't be 350 million people under one umbrella, under one set of rules. We're going to have to divide up. There's no other way around it. We're going to have to start parallel societies, parallel systems, parallel structures that allow different people with different beliefs autonomy and the ability to live the life that they want to live, so they're not put in conflict with somebody who simply doesn't believe what they believe, and turned into enemies, turned into, oh, I have to talk crap about this guy, or I have to talk crap about this woman who was shot because my side is right and their side is wrong. That's ignorant. This isn't smart. It's not a smart way that we've allowed our society to currently be. And it's not like by necessity we do have workarounds. Because this isn't smart, we do have workarounds. I mean, there's state rights, there's state laws. You can pass laws about what happens within your state borders that are different from what happens within the borders of the country at large. However, because they're a nested set, because Minnesota is nested within the U.S., there are going to be some overlapping things that Minnesota can't control. And so what you're running into now is there's a state who has a lot of people who believe things a certain way, who have a certain ideology, and that ideology is opposed to the ideology of the nation it's nested within. So this is a serious issue. These are serious issues. And this is the type of thing, when you see this broad amount of disagreement, this broad amount of conflict, and this broad divergent ideologies, that can indeed cause a problem. That can indeed lead to civil war down the road. I think there's a big thing in the U.S. that people disregard when it comes to civil war. I think it's very hard to have a civil war right now in the United States of America because there's pretty much no part of the country who doesn't have some representation from the quote-unquote other side. So if you started a civil war in the U.S. right now, you would have guerrilla warfare on every street, right? You would have a Republican, a red city, but there's going to be blue people in it, right? They can easily sneak up behind you as you're trying to march a certain direction to go take another blue city. Well, you've got blue people in your own city who have guns at your back, right? So that's going to make it hard. Same the other way around, right? You're a blue city and you're going to go march on a red city. Well, good luck. It's rough to run that civil war because you've got enemies behind the lines. You're going to be starting with enemies behind the lines. Is that a great way to start a civil war? No. It would be absolute chaos. It wouldn't get anywhere. Neither side would make enough progress because both sides would be sabotaged instantly by people behind the lines, right? They're on your turf, they're in your territory, they're on your block, and they've got a gun at your back, right? So that's going to be a rough civil war in the U.S. That to me is going to stop any real civil war from happening. Will there be civil unrest? Yes, there's civil unrest right now. Can there be a large-scale civil war between red states and blue states? No, because there's too many of each people on the other side, right? There's too many people, there's too many red people in Minnesota. If Minnesota decided right now, hey, screw this, we're going against the government, you killed one of our citizens, we're going to fight you, there's too many red individuals in that blue state. And Minnesota will have guns, their own guns, turned on them if they try to fight. You know, it's not going to work that way. And thank God, because otherwise it could happen at any moment. But I think due to this kind of demographic reality, it's going to be hard to have that civil war. And thank God. So what's actually going to need to happen is kind of just an exaggerated version of what's already happening with states' rights. We just need more of that. We just need more separation, more autonomy, more right to actually live in a place that you want to live in. And it's easier said than done, of course. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes petitions, it takes legal work, boots on the ground, stuff getting done. But it's totally doable, and there's a clear path to getting it done. It's a little bit harder in other countries to do things like that, but definitely not impossible. This stuff is definitely down to the will of the people, like it always has been and like it always will be. Unless there's societies of clankers, unless, hey, I love AI, so I'm not a clanker hater, but it's a funny word. And there could be societies of clankers in the future, and that society is totally vulnerable to complete domination, because it's the will of the people means nothing at that point. If it's a society full of machines, then sure, you can dominate it, but not so much with a society full of real people with real thoughts and opinions who really will sacrifice their lives for what they believe in. But yeah, anyway, so those are my basic ideas on the Renee Good situation. It's not left versus right, it's not citizens versus citizens, it's none of that, it's ideology versus ideology. It's not having enough room to breathe. It's having one person holding the umbrella over 360 million people's heads. Some people are going to get rained on. We can't all stay dry with one umbrella over everybody's head. We need a lot of much smaller umbrellas over all of our heads. We need a lot more diversity in action, real diversity, not just the forced diversity. We don't need anybody forcing a lack of racism down anybody's throat. It's not reducing amount of racism by trying to force diversity onto people's blocks. People don't want to live most people, I tend to like it, but most people don't like living extremely diverse lives, on their own block. Sure, whatever's going on that side of the world, way over there, it doesn't really matter. But what's happening on your block, you want some say in that. You want some say in your local space, and that's what people want, right? It's not like a lot of right-wing people really care what immigrants are or aren't in Minnesota. They don't care. They just don't want the immigrants in their city doing anything bad to them. And since Minnesota is considered part of their country, they want that to be taken care of too. All you have to say is Minnesota isn't a part of your country, and all of a sudden none of them would care, right? ICE goes away immediately, right? Because it's not part of the country, so it doesn't matter. It's just there's a lot of little things you have to iron out. You have to iron out all the legalities. Okay, if Minnesota isn't a part of the United States, what relationship does it have with the United States? Does it still participate in the economy of the United States, or does it not? And it can go either way. Both are workable things. You could work it out to where Minnesota is no longer living under a lot of the laws of the U.S., but still participates economically with the U.S. There's so many ways. People act like these things are hard or unachievable, but they're actually pretty easy. It only takes a few people with a few brain cells who understand the logistics of different things. That's really all it takes is logistics. These aren't hard things, right? People still have college degrees. People can still type into Google, right? It's not hard to make a Minnesota that doesn't have to deal with ICE in it. It's also not hard to make a USA that can have no Minnesota in it, that can have no LA or no New York or no Chicago in it. Listen, I live in Chicago, and I don't think it's not going to be a problem for me if I no longer have the U.S. flag flying over my head. What matters is, what is my relationship with the world? Am I in danger? Is anybody going to invade? What is my diplomatic relationship with the people around me? How's my economy going? Those are the important things, right? We can iron all that stuff out without forcing each other all into one umbrella, one set of beliefs. We already have a country that marijuana laws are all over the place, drug laws are all over the place. You go to different states, different cities, it's different everywhere. People are all doing different things. People all have different religions, different beliefs, and yet we're in these certain areas, in these certain parts of life, we're subjugated to differences that put us at each other's throat, that pit us against each other, and make life hard and or impossible to live. So for someone like Renee Good, it felt impossible to live with ICE just down her street stealing brown people and putting them in a van. So she was mad about it and talking crap to the ICE agent about it. And then she gets surrounded, from that point of view, she gets surrounded and murdered because she simply didn't want something happening on her block. No, nobody should have that happen to them, right? Somebody's protesting about what's happening on their block, and they ended up in a situation where they got shot to death. You know, and the same the other way around. Nobody should end up in a situation where they're trying to enforce their country's laws. They're trying to do what they believe is right, and yet they've got a citizen trying to get away from them, trying to talk. No, it's like, hey, I'm your civil servant. Every civil servant wants to live in a place where the people they're serving actually want them there and actually like them. It's hard to be a civil servant. That's your job every day. I'm a civil servant, and I got to go to this place where everybody hates me, everybody's talking crap to me, everybody's putting me on edge. You're putting me in a position where I want to do violence to you because you want to do violence to me. You can't be in a situation where a bunch of people want to do violence to you, want you out, want you to stop doing your job, and yet you have to do your job. You have no other. It's hard to work with that mentally, and you become antagonistic towards the people you're supposed to be serving, right? Because you're not actually serving them. You're serving totally different people. And of course, that's going to put you in conflict with the people that you're actually not serving. That ICE agent was not serving Renee Good, and Renee Good was not okay with that ICE agent doing what the ICE agent was doing, right? So that's going to create a conflict. Neither person was a bad person trying to do a bad thing, or at least, you know, from my limited understanding of what happened. I don't know either of them. I don't know what happened before the videos cut in, and I don't know what happened after the videos cut out. You know, what we know is what we know, and from the looks of it, these are two U.S. citizens, two Americans, two earthlings, two human beings who had maybe vast disagreements and a conflict, an imminent butting of heads, an imminent clashing based on ideology, based on disagreements. And that turned deadly this time, and those things do turn deadly. This type of disagreement, this type of ideology conflict, these things do turn deadly. That's why we should not just allow it to keep happening. We shouldn't believe that things are already structured the best they could be. These are structural issues. These are ideological issues. These are issues that can be fixed with different borders, different structures, different agreements, different logistics, different demographics. These things can absolutely be fixed. It's not even that hard. It takes a little bit of brain power. It takes a little bit of cooperation. It takes a little bit of understanding and working together, seeing somebody else's side, and coming to an agreement, coming to a compromise about what's the best possible solution moving forward. Because currently it's obvious that what we're doing right now is not the best possible way to be doing these things, right? It's not good that ICE is being impeded. It's not good that a civil servant body, a body of protection for our country is being impeded in their goals, but it's also not good that a large portion of the country does not want them doing what they're doing and is willing to put themselves in harm's way to stop ICE from doing what they're doing, right? This is gonna be a bigger, growing problem. This should come to an end, and instead it's probably going to continue to come to a head. More people are going to get hurt and potentially die, and for no real good reason. Because it's perfectly normal to want to support immigrants and to want to support them coming to a country that they want to be in and want to have that brotherly love with them as a Christian would, you know? But it's also perfectly understandable to want to protect the borders of your country, to want to protect your economy, to want to protect your citizens, and get any illegal immigrants out, right? These are totally understandable positions, and the people who can't understand them are the problem. We can't continue, we can't progress, we can't make it further as a world of human beings with horribly simplistic, utopian, ignorant ideology. It's ignorant to believe that someday we're all going to be under one umbrella. Oh yeah, the U.S. maybe can go around the world and conquer everything. Like, these are backwards ideas from lost ages that no longer exist because of how stupid they were, right? It never happened. Nobody ever took over the world because it's stupid to try to take over the world. There's too many people, there's too many beliefs, there's too many differences among us for us all to be under one person's rule, under one country's rule, under one regime, under one legislature, under one president. None of this is going to work for everybody, right? There's going to be groups of people that can group up and get a lot done together with people who are like-minded, who believe what they believe. Those people work together great and get a ton done. That's what we should focus on as a country. That's the strength of all countries, of all humans around the world. Our strength is uniting with people who are like-minded, who believe similar things to us, or making compromise with people who aren't. And if that can't happen, then we shouldn't be around each other, right? If we have differences but we can't compromise, then we need to find, okay, that's a good place to draw a border, that's a good place to make a line and say, hey, yours over there, mine over here, fine. Go about our business. You have a good day, I'll have a good day. Fantastic, right? That's how it gets done. And we can get into the specifics, and obviously on this channel, on the YNBT channel, that's what it's all about. And we'll be getting as deep into all these specifics as you want to get, as you can stand, as you can bear, because this is what's important, and this is what's world changing, and this is how positive change can happen. By allowing intelligent conversations, by allowing proper solutions to come forward, and by embracing those solutions and working together to make them happen with people who have like-minded beliefs and ideas.
In other news around the world, Venezuela lost its president to a U.S. task force, a U.S. Supreme SEAL Force, a U.S. They did stuff. We took him. We took Maduro. We got him. We came. We saw. He went to jail. Stuff's happening. Is it right or wrong? Yes and yes. There's like all situations, like almost every situation you'll ever see a human being in, it's a plausible situation with plausible outcomes, plausible solutions, plausible desires, plausible options. You can go. It's not one thing. It's multiple things. It's good. It's bad. It's all of those things, right? It's bad that we're interfering with other countries' political leaders, with other countries' political agendas, with other countries' political well-being. It's wrong to, in general, it's wrong to go into another country and interfere with what's going on there when you weren't invited, when nobody asked you to do that, right? So it tends to not be a good look. However, if it is that Maduro, which seems to be the case, that Maduro has not been running elections cleanly and legally, but instead intimidating the opposition, chasing them out of the country, and then trying to rule over a country that is minus his detractors. He's trying to chase away his detractors, or successfully has chased away many of his detractors from the country. Almost a quarter of the country's population, if you're to believe the numbers, almost a quarter of the country's population. That's huge. And if that's the case, it is somewhat understandable to want to remove somebody like that from power. If they want to claim leadership of a country, but then want to chase away all the opposition out of that country, that's a problem, right? He's not separating out some land and saying, oh, my opposition has a valid point and they can live in this country too. We can separate ourselves. We can separate ourselves by territory, by laws, by beliefs, and we can be a well-functioning, cooperating country with different types of people with different beliefs. But no, that's not what he's doing, right? He wants them out, and that tends to be a big problem. It tends to be not uncommon around the world, and it tends to create issues, right? These are people who are being displaced unwillingly instead of cooperated with, and a proper outcome, a proper resolution being offered to both sides. In the world today, it's so often that one side is okay as long as their side gets what they want, and they don't care what the compromise is for anybody else. That's not their problem. They just want what they want. If you get what you want, they could care less, and sometimes just would rather you not even have what you want, let alone the fact that the most important thing is them getting what they want. We're no longer uniting to disagree. We have to remember that it's important to unite to disagree. The best way to get what you both want in a disagreement is to come together, make a compromise. You have to come together, unite in this conversation, in this moment. You have to unite your efforts to achieve the best outcomes, even when you're at opposition. Even when you disagree with people, you have to unite with them, come to the best conclusions together, the best compromises, and figure out what the best solutions going forward are for everybody. And that's going to work best for either side you're on, right? It would work best for Maduro and the U.S. is if we worked with him to make the best possible decisions instead of working against him to take him out of the country and then put a new person in. Wouldn't it make more sense to make friends with Maduro, but tell him, hey, you got to make sure you're running your elections properly, and if you don't, we're going to have a big problem. Instead of just taking the unilateral decision to say, hey, it's my choice whether you run your country or not. and I'm going to make the choice that you're not going to run your country anymore, and then I'm going to try to decide who is going to run your country. It's not that that can't work. It could work. If you happen to find a great leader who all the people love and who is going to make great changes for everybody, then that would work. However, it seems that there's a difference of opinion within the country itself. And so no matter what leader you pick, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be confrontation. Some people are going to like that leader. Some people aren't. Some people in Venezuela will like the next leader. Some people won't. Some people outside of Venezuela will like the new leader. Some people won't, right? And so it's not actually fixing anything. We're not creating a sustainable future. We're not creating a sustainable situation that can go on and really help the people of Venezuela, right? We're creating a new issue. We're going to supplant the old leader with a new leader who, again, will have conflict, lack of support, and will have to just, please the U.S. rather than please their own citizens, because that's the way they're going to stay in power, is by pleasing the U.S. This isn't going to be ultimately the most beneficial thing that can happen for the Venezuelan people, right? The most beneficial thing that could happen for them is for their leaders to be able to work with other world leaders and to work domestically within their own country to come up with the best solutions. Granted, Maduro was not working within his country to come up with the best solutions for everybody. He was looking to do the same thing Trump is looking to do, work for the best solutions that benefit him the most, that benefit the people who support him. That's not the way to be an effective leader for a large group of people under one umbrella. Not only shouldn't, it's not even a good system to put a large amount of people under one umbrella, but should you find yourself in a system with a lot of different types of people under one umbrella, what you want is a leader who can put themselves in each person's shoes and figure out what the best solutions are, what the best compromises are for everybody. That's no longer happening on the world stage. People are getting very extremist and very utopianist, believing that somehow everybody is going to come on their side sooner or later. Oh, I'm going to run a country and I'm going to make it so everybody is on the same page. Everybody has to go with one agenda, and that's the way it's going to work. No, it's not. It's never going to. It's never going to work like that. You have a lot of people with a lot of different beliefs in most countries these days, and trying to change that means a lot of times, at least trying to change that in a bad way, often looks extremely ugly. If you want less diversity of belief, less diversity of culture, less confrontation, I totally understand, and there are ways to get there. And how to get there is to give those other people things that they want, right? If I want to live in a Venezuela under Maduro's rule, that should be an option that I have as a Venezuelan. If I don't, then that I should also have an option to not do that. The main thing people are missing is the option to opt out of anything in the first place. So if I'm in Venezuela and I'm under Maduro, there should be some way for me to opt out of that, say, this isn't exactly what I like. I would like something different. So allow me a second choice. Okay, so some of us are going to be ruled by Maduro. Who's going to hold the umbrella for the people who disagree with Maduro, right? Every country, if you want to have a lot of people in one country who are able to work together to make things happen as one country, you have to give them more options than, hey, somebody who totally disagrees with you is going to be in office, to the point where they're going to make the whole country look like something you don't like, and there's going to be no place in that country for you. Right, this is going to cause a problem anywhere, whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's in the U.K., whether it's in China. That's why countries like China like to maintain a very homogeneous culture. They don't want a bunch of diversity there, because in a country as large as China, with as many people as China, if that starts becoming diverse, they've got some real problems on their hands, right? It's going to be real hard to keep China together if the country was split into 6 or 7 major ideologies that conflict with each other. It would be the doom of China. So they can't sustain that, and so they don't want to allow that, right? And then people think, oh yeah, China's pretty harsh with what they allow and what they don't allow. Well, yeah, they're trying to control a whole lot of people to be on the same page. That's extremely hard. The Chinese people, the Chinese government, all have to work very hard to make a billion people under one umbrella work. Okay, that's not simple. It could, the way the U.S. is going, it would be impossible. With a culture as divided, with as many different ideologies, with as much diversity as we have, it's impossible to sustain that and keep growing to that size, right? And so there are good points people make with border control, with not having too much diversity, too much conflict, too much disagreement inside of one border. If you have too much diversity inside of one border, you have to create a second border, right? That's just how it works. And in the U.S., we're at the point where we have to create more borders. We have to give more states their rights, and we have to give cities the opportunity to disagree with states. There's just too many millions of people who believe different things who have to be given choice. Humans require choice. Choice is part of freedom. If you do not have choice, if you do not have a voice, if you do not have representation, you do not have freedom, okay? So this is very important to digest this and understand that the problems we're having here, whether it's with ICE on our homeland territory, or whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's in Brazil, whether it's in Iran, whether it's in anywhere around the world, if we're taking an interest in another country, or if regardless of what country we're even in, the most important thing moving forward in the future of politics and in the future of this world is going to be understanding other people's positions and understanding that any position that a lot of humans take has to be accepted as valid. If there's 100,000 white people who only want to be around white people, you have to take that serious. You have to say, oh, I didn't know. If there's so many of you white people who want to be around nothing but other white people, we have to make space for that. We can't just mock it. It's not funny. It's not a joke. It's not, haha, look at them, they're stupid. No, these are human beings with wants and needs. And if they say, we want to be around other white people, then you should probably let them. Otherwise, you will be causing the problem, right? All right, just like I want to be around a diverse amount of different people. I want to be around brown people. I want to be around white people. I want to be around black people. I want to be around every type of person because I enjoy hearing different points of view. I enjoy hearing different stories, different narratives, different points of view on the world around me are important to me. Okay, so I want to be in that situation. So it would hurt me, and I would become angry if I was forced to live in a situation where there was nothing but white people. It would bother me. I wouldn't like it. I've never been in that situation, and I would feel uncomfortable with that situation. I was born and raised around a lot of different cultures, around a lot of different people. That's where I thrive, because that's what I'm used to, and that's what makes me feel comfortable and safe. If that does not make you feel comfortable, if it makes you feel insecure, if it makes you feel unsafe, then you shouldn't be forced to live like that, okay? I don't care how much, how unracist you are. I don't care how much you love other people. Yeah, me too. But that doesn't mean that we get to tell other people they have to be the same. Other people are allowed. Most other countries, most other societies away from the U.S., away from the West, are not only fine with one culture, desire to have one united culture with their fellow countrymen. China wants one culture. Do all Chinese people want one culture? No. Probably a lot of the young people want to diversify and want new cultures, right? They like American culture, they like Japanese culture, they like Korean culture, right? They don't want just Chinese culture, okay? But others do. There should be a place for both of them, right? There should be a united Chinese population. There should be a united Caucasian population. There should be a united black population. There should be places where these people can unite and enjoy a homogeneous experience of culture that they can invest in and thrive with. That's perfectly fine. That's needed. It's a part of humanity that's good and shouldn't be lost. We should have different cultures with different types of people doing specific things that are specific to them. There's black culture that is important and should be kept black culture. There's white culture that is important and should be kept as white culture. There's Chinese culture that is important and should be kept as Chinese culture. Does that mean they have to hate anybody else? No. Chinese culture can exist without it being anti-white. It can say, hey, we want to stay Chinese. We want to have a Chinese culture here. And you can have your white culture anywhere you want to. Like that's fine. Other Chinese people want to be a part of white culture. That's also fine. Those people both need a place to live, right? So the big issue with China isn't that there's a bunch of Chinese people that don't want to live with white people. That's normal. There can be a bunch of Chinese people that don't want to live with white people. That's fine, but there also has to be a place for Chinese people who do want to live with white people, who do want to live with black people, who do want to live with Koreans, who do want to live with Japanese people. Okay? That has to be fine too, because there's nothing wrong with either of those things. Both things are adaptive. Both things are advantageous. Both things are productive. Both things can lead to great other things. So just because we disagree with one of those things, just because I like to be surrounded by diversity, doesn't mean I have to hate somebody who hates diversity. Other people can hate diversity all they want, and they should still have that society, right? It's not up to me to dictate what other people should believe. And in fact, that's counterproductive, it's unhealthy, and it's unhelpful. It doesn't fix anything, and it creates more conflict and creates less solutions, right? It stifles people. It holds us back. It doesn't progress my own wants and needs, and it equally doesn't progress anybody else's wants and needs. It's just me being a big baby and wanting people to be more like me. That's not my right. It's not my choice. It's selfish, it's egotistical and self-centered, it's simplistic, it lacks complexity, it lacks depth, and it lacks intelligence. It shows ignorance, right? So that's not what you want to do if you want to get a good world that's productive, a good economy, everybody can communicate, everybody can cooperate, everybody can compromise, everybody can work productively separately, productively together. We can have alliances, right? That's what everybody wants. That's what we're trying to get to. That's what we've always been trying to get to. And it's never been great. It's never been perfect, but we've generally in the past had more understanding that there's going to be other types of people around the world and in our own country, in our own neighborhoods, who think and believe different things than us. And it's best practice to not fight with them over everything and try to work things out the best we can. And right now that's becoming nearly impossible because the diversity and the division, the lack of agreement on every single issue, on every single way of life is permeating every inch of these societies, and they can't take it anymore. People need a release. People need relief from the constant conflict, the constant being at each other's throats and having to fight for your side, and yet nothing is actually happening to make anything better for anyone. We have to mature our opinions about the world. We have to mature our ability to understand philosophy and understand our fellow humans and psychology. We have to complexify our ability to understand the world around us. We can't understand it in such simple terms that make our understandings ignorant rather than informative, that make our ideas hurtful rather than helpful. We have to be able to contribute positively to societies because people who live in a society become the reflection of that society. And if you have a bunch of people who aren't willing to compromise, aren't willing to make room for others, then that's what the country is going to look like. It's going to look like a country that doesn't compromise, a country that doesn't make room for others, and a country that ends up at war with other countries, a country that ends up in conflict, constant conflicts with everybody everywhere, including inside its own borders. And you see this around the world. You see country after country falling to simplistic, ignorant ideas that they can just force others to agree with them, force others to live like them, force others to allow them to do what they're wanting to do. No, we have to work together. We've got to come to agreements. We've got to agree to, it can't happen without us agreeing, right? We've got to be able to come together and agree that white people are allowed to live with other white people. And right now it's not happening. People on my side, people on the side that I tend to agree with, I tend to side with the left on a lot of things, and people on my side are saying it's not okay for other white people to live amongst white people. And that is causing a lot of issues. You can't do that. That's not your choice. It's not your choice. It's not my choice to tell white people they can't live with nothing but other white people. You have to let them. It will only cause war. It will only cause death. It will only cause horrible situations to tell other people that they can't live life the way they want to because you don't want them to. That's not your choice. Okay? So let's use our brains. Let's use a long history of human philosophy, a long history of human psychology. Let's try to understand ourselves and each other and make good choices towards good solutions. You know, right now we're so worried about Iran out of nowhere. We're worried about Iranian protesters. You know, we're barely worried about our own protesters most of the time. Most of the time we want our own protester to shut up. You know, any random civilian across America, you know, Oh, these January 6th protesters, they're horrible pieces of garbage. Oh, wait, these people who are protesting ICE, they're horrible pieces of garbage. Okay, so we don't even like our own protesters. Our own protesters can't protest without half the country saying they're horrible. And yet we're worried about Iranian protesters? We hate our own protesters, but we love Iranian protesters? We don't give our own people freedom of speech if we disagree with them, but we want to give Iranian people freedom of speech? And we want to force that upon them? Trump is going to tell Iran they have to be nicer to the protesters? Is Trump going to tell ICE they have to be nicer to protesters? No, it doesn't look like it, right? He's saying ICE needs to be more harsh. ICE needs to get in there and, rough people up and be serious about it. But, over in Iran, yeah, and don't get me wrong. Listen, the latest numbers I've heard is 2,000 people, 2,000 protesters murdered. That's crazy. If that's what's happening, yeah, people should be worried about it. That should be an issue popping up on people's radar. It should be something that presidents are talking about. So we've got to wrap our minds around this stuff, and we've got to do it fairly quickly because things aren't getting better, right? They're getting worse. We've got to come together. You've got to work with your brothers across the aisle, your sisters across the aisle, your non-binary friends. We've got to see each other as assets rather than opposition, rather than obstacles. We can't see each other as obstacles and somehow get to a good place. You can't see other humans as an obstacle to your goals and somehow you're going to end up in a good place. That's not reality. If other humans are an obstacle for you, you're an obstacle for them. If other humans are a problem for you, you're a problem for them, right? And what is that going to cause? That's not going to cause, a profit for both sides. That's going to cause a problem for both sides. That's going to cause conflict. That's going to cause lack of production. That's going to cause lack of progression. That's going to cause lack of improved technology, lack of improved infrastructure. That's going to harm us. That's not going to help us, okay? So if you want to help your side, if you want to help your beliefs, if you're a leftist, you want a better world for leftists, then start understanding the right. Start talking to the right. Start being able to have a conversation and start being able to come to a compromise. Because if you can't do those things, then you're not going to be helpful to your cause, right? The people who are going to be helpful going forward are the people with good ideas, good solutions, complex ideas, people who don't have an ignorant take on the other side, people who can indeed understand the other side. And instead of every time something happens, people who don't understand Renee Good's side are horrible Nazi murderers. Oh, no. People who don't understand ISIS side are a liberal, moron, purple hair, freak, idiots. It's like, okay, both of you are, either side saying those things isn't accurate, isn't intelligent, isn't having complex thoughts or ideas. They're having simpleton takes about nonsense. They're wanting to fight. And good, you're going to get your fight. That's what you're going to get, is a fight. Acting like that, you'll get your fight. Most of us don't want that. So those of us who don't want that need to start talking some sense, need to start hogging up some microphone space. You can't let it be that only the people who want wars are going to be taking up only people who want wars are going to be taking up the microphone. Only people who want hate are going to be picking up a microphone. If you don't pick up a microphone, if the people who don't want peace don't pick up a microphone, if the people who, if intelligent people who can understand other human beings' points of views, if you don't pick up a microphone, if you don't make your voice heard, we're going to end up in a bad place, okay? Because people who do hate each other are making their voices heard. You can turn on any YouTube channel, you can turn on anything, any piece of media anywhere, and you will find a lot of people hating a lot of other people, right? They're making their voice heard about who they hate. So if hate is the only voice that's being heard, we're going to end up in a really bad place. We need the voice of people who don't hate. We need the voice of people who do understand, and that's going to make the difference, right? That's what your next big thing is all about. That's why this platform exists, so that we can have a place to come together, so that we can have a place to work towards proper goals, to work towards understanding each other, to work towards making a better world for all of us, to work towards making parallel societies, parallel structures, parallel systems that actually can function for you. Systems where you don't have to worry about some outside agency coming in and harassing your citizens, so that you don't have to worry about your agency wants to protect your borders, but instead they're running into problems with their own civilians. It isn't right. What's happening right now isn't right. It isn't smart. It isn't complex. It isn't any of those positive descriptors will not work on what's happening right now. It's stupid. It's simple. It's a bunch of misunderstandings. It's bad philosophy. It's not understanding psychology. It's pure ignorance. We're not doing things the right way. And not only that, but the people who understand that we're not doing things the right way aren't speaking up. Only people who hate this side or that side are speaking up. And we can't let hate be the only voice out there. So please, keep pushing, keep fighting, join this platform, join other platforms, create your own platform, do something to speak up for intelligence, for complexity, for understanding and love. Do something to stand up for love and love what you believe in and fight for it. Fight for love and fight for what you believe in. Fight for what's right. And do that by avoiding fighting fellow human beings, right? Because even though you have to fight for what you believe, you don't have to fight other human beings, right? You have to fight for that opportunity. You have to fight legal systems. You have to fight to change laws. You have to fight for the compromise you need. You don't have to fight another human being physically, right? These are mental issues. These are structural issues, and that's where the fight is. The fight is for the right mentalities. The fight is for the right structures, the right systems, the right societies, the right leadership. That's the struggle, and that's what we fight for. Okay? Love you all. Thanks so much for listening. Bye. Thanks for slopping by.